Okay, so we've been working on adding other components to the pinball machine. One of the components that we'd like to add is a magnet on the left ramp. The idea is that the ball will basically come down, go up the ramp, come down the ramp, and then get grabbed inside of this square magnet, captured, released, continue to roll down, but then grab it again and launch it back up the ramp. This is, rather than having just a magnet visible, even though this is a mock-up anyway of the pinball machine, I wanted to hide it and encase it in something else that's a little more interesting, gives me a few more options. So what I'm doing is I'm building a housing that traps the magnet inside. Yes, it does look just like a larger magnet. And once the ball is trapped, the idea is that these acrylic lenses will start to chase slowly and then faster and then faster and faster and faster and faster until boom, it fires the ball back up the ramp. So I'm building a housing just to kind of hide the magnet because I feel like it's ugly. Because it looks like this. It's just a magnet wrapped in cloth and a couple leads coming off of it. So let's see here. This is the cap that goes on and covers the magnet. This black thing inside of the housing is the magnet that I've modeled, so I'm going to hide that. And then you can see inside I've pocketed it out for, there's a bump on the bottom of the magnet. I don't know if you can see this, let's see. See that bump there that sticks up, so I need to accommodate that in my housing. And then, of course, there's this hole on the side where the wires will leave and then dive down below the playfield. So this is my first attempt at it. There are little channels that capture the flanges on the magnet. And, you know, if all my measurements were correct and not done with a tape measure, I probably would have nailed it, but I screwed up. So this was my initial test print last night on low resolution on my home printer. You can see I did not print it correctly. I'm still learning to use it. But see in the bottom, the housing is not big enough, the accommodation for that bump on the bottom of the magnet. This was the first attempt. The model that I just showed you is the newer version of it. And then, of course, you've got the cap that would go over it. So, let me see if I can do this with one hand. Gosh dang, this is near impossible. I cannot do this with one hand because I am not that coordinated. Okay, here we go, kinda. Okay, so, oh gosh. All right, there we go. So, boom, this would go in. And as you can see, it doesn't sit all the way down. And as a result, my cap that would normally go down over top of the magnet does not seat down all the way either. This is not the way I would do this at the end of the project. This is just for the time being. And I think the base is going to have to be turned 90 degrees. But I will print another version of this housing tonight. And then I'll update with hopefully a housing that actually fits. And one thing I'll say, if you're measuring and or working at home, and I use these every day, and it's ridiculous that I just didn't buy a cheap set for home. I have a nice set at work, but this is a cheap digital caliper. And it's off of Amazon, 19 bucks or 14 bucks or something like that. And I could have used this yesterday. That would have been nice. I mean, especially when I was building, you know, the little servo controller base plate. You know, I got lucky with a tape measure, but I should have used digital caliper. Just so much easier. So do yourself a favor and buy a cheap pair.